Yeah. Very.
Hey, Mum.
Okay,
I might go and help Marilyn with her hair. Where is she?
Leah, I'm making a toast.
Okay.
What are you doing? And in front of Damo? Have you no shame?
Next time you want to drink until you drop, you might not be so lucky. There's a lot of very dangerous men out there.
Chaz,
No, Paddy, don't you dare say another word.
I'm so sorry.
I said no! Mum! Mum! Mum!
Last weekend I talked about the bottom 5 soap operas in my rankings for October 2022. Today it is time to talk about the top 5 soap operas in my rankings for the month. And there is a couple of new British soap operas making their way into the top 5, while the other 3 shows have basically been in my top 5 all year long. But we're going to start at number 5.
I can't believe you lied to me.
You lied to him. What's he talking about, and who is he?
Everyone say, vote Hatchet. This is Bo. He's my son.
Hollyoaks, which has definitely improved a little bit. I think the thing that it got right in October is that it finally had some focus. I've been saying for months now that ever since Lucy Allen took over Hollyoaks last year, it has been basically a mess. Lucy Allen has just been throwing things at a wall, seeing what sticks in her stories. There's been so many different stories going on, and none of them all that great, quite frankly. But I feel like in October, they did do a good job focusing on, I would say, the incel story a lot the most. And I do really think that the incel story is the best story Hollyoaks has told this year for sure. Eric going off the deep end about women all the time, being online, talking crap about women, like some of the incels do in real life on message boards. Eric basically has a terrible blind date with Maxine, and it goes poorly because Eric is an awkward individual, and he has Maxine drugged and writes slag on her forehead. But in doing this, he's starting to give himself away. He is blackmailing Mason, who eventually is the one who finds out more about Eric, and that Eric is poisoning or trying to drug the women, including women he's related to. So the character of Mason also becoming an incel in the story. And Mason is up to some villainous stuff as well, which we'll get to in a while. But I don't know. I think having the character of Mason find out that Eric is the one who's like talking all this crap about women online, and some of which are his sisters or half-sisters that he's possibly targeting, and Mason doesn't do anything about it. I don't think this bodes well for the character of Mason and people enjoying the character of Mason. But I still think overall this has been one of the more well-done stories on Hollyoaks this year for sure. I assume it's got to be climaxing soon with Eric giving himself away. I don't know if he'll just be killed off or whatever. Maybe they'll eventually not go that far with him. But we'll see. I don't know what I want them to do. I feel like they're already going too far for the point of no return with the character. Very Hollyoaks style. Every villain has to be majorly awful and can't really be redeemed, which is like kind of the opposite of American soap operas, where these days they want to redeem all their villains. I would just wish there was some middle ground with villains on soaps these days. Other stories going on, though. Another story I've enjoyed on Hollyoaks that got some focus the month of October is Imran, who's been going through it, trying to work out too hard. He's been hating himself and the way he looks, and he's kind of going through this eating disorder. You know, they've been kind of dangling that possible relationship with Serena that's kind of been off and on. But I've always enjoyed the character of Imran, and I'm glad he's getting a spotlight, and I think they're doing a pretty good job with that. And Misbah is, of course, concerned about her son and wants basically Juliet to start spying on Imran to help him from himself, I guess, is the way Ms. Boss sees it. But that's another good storyline. And before we get to some of the negativities, Ethan and Sienna, at first I was seeing a lot of people online talking about how they've come around to these two and that these two have chemistry, and I still wasn't feeling it. I've been saying since the character of Ethan came onto this show that I'm just not feeling the character because they shoved him down our throats way too fast. Way too much and way too fast. And it made me not really like the character. I don't like when soaps do that with a new character anyway, most of the time anyway. Unless it's like a really well-rounded character. But Ethan was not that at the beginning. They were trying to make him this hardcore villain at first, and I just wasn't feeling it. It seems like that's another thing that bothers me about Hollyoaks lately is like they want to have so many villains, and that's like the only way they know how to introduce new characters is by making them villains. Like not everyone can be a villain. You got to have some balance. That's been one of my main things with Hollyoaks. They just lack balance, which has led to lack of focus. I do think October was an improvement. I have my doubts that it will stay that way. But I did come around to the chemistry between Ethan and Sienna eventually. You know, they slept together, and Sienna's still like kind of trying to avoid that possible relationship, and Sienna and Leela later had a slap fight, which was kind of entertaining. But yeah, I've come around to the chemistry between Ethan and Sienna. I still ain't totally sold on the Ethan character in general, but these two characters do have chemistry, and I could get behind that. Now, they somewhat finally ended the Joseph blackmailing DeMarcus, who was wrongfully accused of killing Saul's story, making this kid be able to get away with so much. I hated this story. It was terribly written, and they're still trying to drag it out kind of because Joseph's this white rich kid who might get off because of the way the system, that's been the whole story, is that DeMarcus was wrongly accused because he's black, and the system, like, I get the story they want to tell. I don't think they've told it well though at all, and they're still dragging it out where it seemed like either Joseph or his mother were harassing DeMarcus in messages online, but it turned out to be Mason who's doing that harassing of DeMarcus. I think what bugs me about the writing for DeMarcus is that they always make him written so weak. Constantly, DeMarcus is written as this weak character, and I don't feel like that's how he first arrived onto the show. So it's been like a character change with him, and I don't like it. I just don't like it. So lastly, before we move on, Norma has still been trying to, she's Warren's mother, and she's trying to basically brainwash him, kind of. And Felix is warning Warren to stay away from Norma. I mean, I still like that they revealed that Norma is Warren's mother. Warren having his mother around should be interesting, but they didn't get a lot of focus in October, and I'm okay with that because that meant that there was not too many stories on at once and that the show overall had more focus. So yeah, usually I come on here and I have a billion Hollyoaks stories to talk about, but I didn't have a lot today. I think the only other thing to really talk about is that, like, Liberty cheated on Damon with this new character who turns out to be Tony's son. That's something else I'm not that high on. But overall, Hollyoaks moved up to 5th place, gets in my top 5. I hope the focus continues and that they can continue to balance out the show a little better. That's been one of the biggest issues with the show, but we'll see if that actually happens. Now, I know I teased that Emmerdale might have been a contender to take the #1 spot in the title, but that was never going to happen. But Emmerdale, for the first time, I'm pretty sure, I could be wrong, it could have gotten number 5 before, but either way, number 4 is the highest that Emmerdale has ever been in my ranking since I started doing that.
I am so sorry.
That is because October celebrated, and while I need to put celebrated in quotation marks because I don't know if I would consider it a celebration at all. But Emmerdale celebrated its 50th anniversary in October, and they celebrated it with a bunch of death. And I think overall I'm not that happy with a lot of the decisions that went into its 50th anniversary and some of the deaths, although not all of them. Some of them are okay. But I still think that, like, I don't know why British soap operas, everything, when it comes to big events, it has to be death. There's other things to do to be able to write compelling storylines. Not everything has to lead to a lot of death. However, with Emmerdale, since I've been doing this for over a year, being so boring most of the time, the fact that a lot was happening on Emmerdale was a nice change of pace, and I had to at least put it in the top 5. It was never going to get into the top 3, and I really don't think Emmerdale is going to stay in my top 5. I think it's going to fall right back down because the aftermath of the 50th anniversary is not compelling to me at all. We're going to go back to the same bad stories we've been watching all year. But let's talk about the 50th anniversary. And I think the main reason I put the show up is because of the way they handled Faith's death. I mean, they killed off a matriarch on the show here in Faith. I mean, I would definitely consider her the main matriarch since, you know, by far the Dingles are the main family on this show nowadays, for better or for worse, mostly for worse, but they are. And so I just felt like we got a lot of great scenes with Faith here going off the air into death here. They also were able to bring back Diane to kind of surprise Faith here. It was good that they had Diane back for the 50th anniversary, even though they didn't have a whole lot for her to do. But I don't know. The scenes with Faith and Kane were very touching. You know, they've had this tumultuous relationship in their lives, and even before Kane was finding out about her cancer, he was very abrasive with her still at all times. But it was nice to see this come full circle with them being able to, I don't know, have this sweet kind of relationship in her dying days, and he's the one holding her as she passes away. It was hard to watch, I ain't gonna lie. It was pretty hard to watch, but it was very well done. And then the other side of that story is they have her daughter, Chaz, is been having this affair with Al, cheating on Patty, but like I've said this before and I'll say it again, I know Chaz is getting all this grief, and she should. I mean, she's clearly acting terrible as a character, that she's having an affair, obviously, and that she's not even around the night that her mother passes away because she's off with Al. But I said it before and I'll say it again, the character Patty, not a fan anymore. Once back in the day, I was a fan of Patty, but he's always been written as this spineless dweeb. When a character is written like that for too long, I don't care. I just see them as a loser, and I see Patty as a loser. So, I don't know. I liked how they set up the story for so long, in that Chaz and Al are having this affair, and that everyone kind of slowly finds out about it. I mean, Aaron did and doesn't want it going on. And then, yes, the night that Faith passes away, Chaz isn't there because she's off with Al. And so, of course, Chaz feels grief about that, but in Chaz fashion, she just wants to blame everybody else for her wrongdoings, kind of taking it out on everybody, especially when Kane and Chaz find out that the reason that Faith died that night is because she overdosed on drugs purposefully and didn't want to carry on with her cancer and the continued slow death that was happening. And so also the fact that Maura knew about all of this has Chaz and Kane upset at first too, and Chaz doesn't even want Maura at the funeral because of that information. But then they go too far, and I assume I only watched up to the end of October, so I haven't seen any episodes from November, but I kind of got spoiled, and I'm pretty sure Al is dead because Kane confronted Al about the affair and everything that was going on, and he wasn't going to shoot him, but then they struggled for the gun, and the gun went off, and I assume they killed off Al, which I think You know, I call out some of the American soap operas for doing this. You set up a story very well. You have dynamics set up, but then you kill off a character and all of those dynamics go away. And you're just set up some sort of poor whodunit probably, or, you know, either Kane really killed him or somebody did it and Kane's going to, you know, protect that person who really shot Al and say he did it. I don't think that's going to be a compelling story at all. The reason I hate it most is because it's just going to put Chaz and Patty back together. They're going to have a big fight about the affair, but, you know, Chaz was falling in love with Al, even though it was a lot of her grief, and Al was falling in love with her too. But if, and I haven't watched these episodes, so this is just speculation, but if they killed off Al, we just go back into the same kind of dingle crap I've watched time and time again that I don't enjoy. So I think killing off Al was a mistake. And there was more people killed off because if Faith's death wasn't enough for the 50th anniversary in British soap opera or modern British soap opera fashion, and especially Emmerdale. Emmerdale loves their stunts. Emmerdale had to do a big stunt for their 50th anniversary and it looked terrible. But they had this storm without rain. It was basically just a windstorm knocking things over, somehow knocking over cars without rain or hurricane winds. But yeah, the wind was so strong that it was hurting a lot of people. It ended up killing Harriet with one of the deaths, which, whatever. I don't really care about the character of Harriet, so I'm fine with that. But they also killed off Liv with one of the flying cars, basically, because of the wind. And Liv pushing Vinny out of the way, and then the car lands on her and kills Liv. So, you know, they kill off Faith Dingle. They kill off an adjacent Dingle in Liv. So at least they're killing off some Dingles, but that's like literally all that the show is made up of these days is Dingles and Dingle adjacent people. But I liked the character of Liv, and I liked the character of Faith. You know, of all the Dingles, I would have rather seen other Dingles and Dingle-adjacent characters killed off than these two, but those are the two that they decided to kill off, and I think it's one of the other reasons why I think the aftermath of these events are not going to be compelling for me. I mean, I get Vinny's going to be depressed by this, as he should be, because I did like the coupling of Liv and Vinny, as I've talked about months past. But now she's been killed off, and Vinny will have to move on with his life from there. Also, the Harriet story, you know, Kim was with her, tried to save her, but then there was an explosion, and she was killed off. And we have Kim and Will were just getting married, but now Will's blaming Kim for Harriet's death because they have this past, even though in the past Harriet was awful to Will. Harriet ruined a lot of Will's life. So him blaming Kim for her death, it's just dumb. It definitely made me, I can't stand the character of Will at this point. I feel like they've flipped Kim and Will. For so long, Kim was so miserable to people, but now they have Will being miserable to people while they're kind of redeeming Kim. Even though I've always liked the character of Kim, whether she's being evil or not. That's all. I don't want to continue to talk about Emmerdale Hill. Also, Amelia had her baby. Samson doesn't really want to be a father. And there was Nicola and Charles having to be stuck together during the storm because they haven't been getting along. Overall, it was more entertaining because it was a stunt week and it was the anniversary, so there was a lot going on. There was a lot of death. So I put Emmerdale up, but it isn't going to stay here. It's going to fall right back down. Because there's not a lot of good stuff set up whatsoever, in my opinion. Coming in at number 3, moving up one spot in my rankings for October, was Home and Away.
I know your marriage is none of my business.
About time.
But if you need somewhere safe, come to me. No questions, no judgment, and I don't want anything in return. I just need you to know that I am here for you.
And the Australian soap almost moved into second place because the beginning of October was the kind of Home and Away that I love. You got a psycho character who was being over the top and really doing a lot, that being the character of Heather, who was the baby that Marilyn gave away long ago, and now she's kind of seeking revenge on Marilyn and all of Marilyn's friends because of the way she was just discarded from Marilyn while Marilyn moved on with her life. I think they set this up well with Heather being a psycho. She invited them to her manor and basically for a family brunch, and knocks out Marilyn, and makes Marilyn watch this on video while she slowly poisons her friends at the damn party that she's having, or the brunch that she's having. So basically Rue, Irene, and Alfie are all drugged up thanks to Heather. Luckily Cash and Rose get there to save them, and Heather takes a tumble. She's basically holding Heather captive on top of the manor, but then she falls, thankfully not to her death. She did survive the fall, so that was good. I was hoping they wouldn't just kill off Heather like that, but Marilyn's having this aftermath of being very sad about all of this. Of course, she's been trying to make herself feel better, I think, by like helping the homeless and stuff. But I think overall, I think the story was good. It was compelling. It was the Home and Away that I like, where the tension starts to build and it's a little over the top and the villain's pretty over the top. But that's the Home and Away that I like. So I like what they did with that story. We also have the other good story going on, and that's the band dynamics. That the Lyric, the band, I've talked about it before. I've never really remember seeing like a storyline about a band before, and all these dynamics within the band, and I feel like that's a really cool way to introduce a bunch of new characters, which is what Home and Away had to do after they lost some characters because of the laws in Australia with the vaccination. And so I've talked about in the past how the character of Remy was the one not really working for me because he was kind of an awkward, odd character. They write him as intense, but I think I finally have come around to him because of this storyline between him and Bree. He's been trying to help the character of Bree, who's being abused by her husband, Jacob. Jacob is this really jealous individual. He even wants to go so far as to quit his job so he can be home with Bree at all times and just spend time with her, be together forever with her at all times. And Remy's been really trying to help her out. But the reason this works for me is because the actor that plays Remy, and I don't know his name, I don't remember a lot of people's names in general. It takes me forever to remember character names, let alone the actor or actress that plays them. But the way Remy looks at Bree, he does a great job acting. You could see it in his eyes how much he cares for Bree. I think he's doing a really good job, and I think that is what finally sold me on the character, is the acting, because he does a lot with his eyes. The way he looks at Bree made me want to root for them as a couple, and they do eventually give in to temptation, that they've had these feelings for each other and sleep together while Jacob is out of town. I'm sure the aftermath of that is going to be nice and explosive, hopefully. But yeah, I like that. And then also with Lyric, one of their music videos goes viral, which causes Bob, who was the former lead singer of Lyric before Theo took over, Bob left the band and broke up with Kirby and left her and left the band. But he comes back once the video goes viral, so you could tell he's really a user. He just wants to get back in the band's good graces because they've gone viral. But he also wants to get back with Kirby, who's now dating Theo, and Theo's not happy about this, of course. But Bob's playing games, and he convinces Kirby to let him sing one song with the band at this gig they have at Mackenzie's place. But when she texts Theo, she doesn't say it's just one song, and Theo takes it as he's being replaced with the former lead singer, so he doesn't show up to the gig at all, and so the whole band cancels the gig because Remy and Eden have Theo's back in that incident, and Bob left them, and now he's just back because they went viral. But yeah, I like these dynamics with the band. I like that Bob is back to cause some foil in the relationship between Theo and Kirby. And like I said, the Remy Bree stuff has been good stuff as well. So overall, Home and Away had a good month in October. They had some solid stories. there's more going on, like Tane and Felicity are engaged, and Cash brings her father to town to possibly be at the wedding, even though she doesn't want him there because of their bad history together. I don't know. Tane and Felicity, I've come around to like them as a couple, but I feel like they have like basic problems going into their engagement and their possible marriage. But their wedding planning also brings Cash and Eden kind of together. You know, last month in September, I was talking about how these two were possibly a budding couple that I didn't really care about because I ship Cash and Rose together. And that's definitely my main negative, is that the only story they have Rose in is to try and help her brother Xander and talk up her brother Xander and get Xander back into dating life because Xander's with this character named Stacy. But I want Rose to have her own story again because I like the character of Rose. And the more that they try and make her prop up Xander, the more I don't care about Xander. I don't like when writers try to use one character so hard to prop up another. It makes me not like said propped up character. But overall, Home and Away was good enough to move up to third. I almost moved it up to second. We're going to talk about why next, because Shortland Street remains in second place.
There is no way I'll let you work when you're off your face. What, you think you can stop me? What is with you? Taking drugs on the daily? Is that how it is now? You calling me a druggie? Go ahead, hit me. I don't care, you've done it before. But there is no way in how I'll let you work with patience. Keys.
Almost fell to third because there was just some decisions with the writing that I didn't like that much. The decisions, not my favorite. The main one kind of being that they put this Marty and Monique relationship, which is clearly a physical relationship. They have physical chemistry. They like to have sex with each other. That's what revolves their whole coupling is about, that. But they want to rush, these two characters want to rush into an engagement. I just don't think it fits. I don't think it fits Monique's character at all, to be honest. And I talk a lot about this on Bold and the Beautiful, which was last place in my rankings for October, that I don't like when couples are just rushed together. And I felt like this was one of those rushed couples. And I kind of get why now, is because, you know, Marty and Esther had this thing before Marty and Monique got together, and Esther ends up pregnant. So we know you could get drama out of that, and Esther can't have children. Well, she can have children, but like it's because of a condition she has. It is dangerous for her to give birth because she can die, and Marty doesn't want her to give birth and die with his baby. So he doesn't want her to have the kid, and I don't think he's told Monique yet, at least not by the end of October, that Esther is pregnant with his baby. But I still didn't like that decision that much. And the other decision I didn't like with the writing is that they had Damo wake up. I've talked about for a couple months now how Damo got hit by a bus. And it felt like they were writing off the character very well with the way they were having him like go up to heaven, kind of. But they kept him in a coma, and you know the way Shortland Street was handling his coma wasn't going well. So Desi had to move him to another place. But then we see him open his eyes, but Desi doesn't think he's still in there. Like, yeah, his eyes are open, but he's still brain dead. But there was a point where he starts crying, and I think Desi now sees that maybe he really is in there. So now it just leaves me wondering that they set up Damo's death so great with the writing. It was powerful stuff, but now you're not going to go through with killing him off. I just feel like it's very, very American soap opera there, where I've seen this too much times, where they can kill off a character, but they choose not to do so despite the writing being good for it. Or, I mean, on American soap operas, though, they'll kill him off and then bring him back to life, back from the dead. They never really died. I don't know. I just felt like they were writing this powerful storyline with Damo, but now they don't want to pull the trigger and actually kill him off. I just don't know what they're going for with the story, to be honest. But I still think overall, clearly, I got the negatives out of the way. But overall, I think Shortland Street still strong enough to be in second place. I think the writing has been very good these past few months, as I've been saying. The main story I like is Jack and Raj. Raj is basically the big boss of Shortland Street, really. I don't exactly know his job, but he's like a board member or something to that effect, because when Chris was in charge, Chris had to answer to Raj, and now that TK's in charge, he has to answer to Raj. So he's big up there. And Raj has this wife who is a paraplegic that he has to take care of. But he's been having an affair with Jack. So he's in a gay relationship with Jack despite being married. And he's hiding this from most people, although some of it's kind of been exposed by Jack. But he's definitely still hiding it from his wife. And I believe the story is that she became paraplegic in a car accident with Raj and her daughter, which the daughter died. But she survived, but she is now in a wheelchair and has a lot of problems. So the dynamics here are compelling to me because I like the, it's Raj is a terrible person. He's having this affair because he isn't happy in this relationship with his wife that he has to take care of, even though he does very well take care of her, but has fallen for Jack now. Jack always getting involved with somebody that he shouldn't be with, whether it's a gang member, a dirty cop, and now this guy. But I like the dynamics there. It makes for some good soap opera. TK and Esther kind of lead to an argument between them because of TK's sister, Nagao, kind of sets Esther up here. That Esther's the one that allowed Tilly to be on birth control, because that was a big story a couple months ago, is that Tilly has become sexually active and TK doesn't like it. There's also been the story that Esther wants to now move to New York, but now that she's pregnant with Marty's baby, that might keep her around. And then TK's dad also dies by the end of the month. TK's had this problem with his dad forever, and now he's going to have to deal with those feelings now that his father's dead. We'll see what leads to those dynamics between TK and Nagao. But, for me, TK has driven the year of Shortland Street for me. His stories have been some of the most compelling, and he continues to be in there. The church religious bright shine continues to rev up as a storyline as Dawn gets involved with the pastor of the church. I think his name is Scott. And there's this patient at the hospital who is talking about how Brightshine is basically a cult and how it's evil, and that person eventually commits suicide at Shortland Street. I think they are revving up for Brightshine to be a big part of the drama at the season end cliffhanger with this eerie cult-like stuff happening with them. Lastly, let's talk about Viliami and also Vivian. Those two slept together on Chris's couch, and because Chris and Viv have been having troubles, and Chris being the one to find out about it because of the nanny cam and breaking up with Vivian, I'm like, Chris has cheated on so many people on this show. They call him Dr. Love for a reason. It's a mixed bag for me because the character Viliami is clearly going down a darker path now after this incident, and Vivian doesn't want him. Vivian wants to work it out with Chris, but Chris breaks up with her. So Viliami moves on to this new girl, Allie, and she has him into drugs and stuff, which has him not showing up for work and calling out sick a lot, which has Logan trying to help him, but is not really being able to help him. So we'll see this dark path for Billy and where it goes with him. I don't know where they're going with Vivian and Chris either. I haven't seen Vivian a lot the last couple of weeks of the month, but I still think overall Shortland Street strong enough to stay in second place. Some decisions with the writing I didn't like, but overall the writing is still better than most of these soaps, and that's why it's still in second place. Home and Away came close to taking this spot, but just couldn't do it. Shortland Street did not come close to first place. I'm sorry, but EastEnders continues to blow every other soap opera out of the water.
Get your hands off my son!
Hello, love. Welcome home.
EastEnders is still in first place very strongly. The Panesar family is bringing such great dynamics to EastEnders. For me, it is giving EastEnders early 2000 vibes because of the way the dynamics are so friggin' interesting. To me, early 2000s EastEnders is the best era of the show. I've said this before. I haven't seen a lot of 90s, so I can't say that it's that much better than a lot of the 90s years. But from 2000 to now, the early 2000s were the best era of EastEnders. And that's because of the way some of the family dynamics were at that point on the show. And right now, it's the Panesars, where the dynamics are amazing and lead to such great drama on an almost daily basis. The way they've written the story, it starts between the dynamics between Eve and Suki, and for so long, Suki suppressing the fact that she likes women and that she wants to be with women, and because of her religious history and because of, family traditions with her race, she hasn't been able to do that. But they did finally give in and sleep together, and Eve knows she has feelings for her. But then, Kirat's been having all this problems with his mother because of all the things that have come out about her and the things that she's done. And he walks in on them in bed together, shocked about all of this. But then, at the same time, Vinny is visiting their niche in prison, who is the patriarch of this family, who's about to be getting out of prison, and he eventually does get out of prison, but this is after Suki decides to go to Mumbai for a while, both for business and to clear her head from everything that has been happening. She's finally dealt with her feelings for Eve, and they've come together, but still a lot of problems. So Nish gets out of prison, and of course, I like the way they set this up, because it is the right way of how you stretch out drama. Because I could talk about how on General Hospital they stretch out all these stories, but they do it poorly because they do it for too long, first of all. But also they do it because they don't know what to do and they don't know how to write, is really what it comes down to. But this way, on EastEnders, to send Suki out of town at the same time when Nish gets out of prison, so that Nish could get close to his children, or he's trying to win them back. But before Suki left to Mumbai, she told Kirat the reason that he was in prison in the first place was because he killed someone in jealous rage. This is yet another lie to come out in this family. Kirat didn't know this truth of all that, the reason why Nish was in prison. And so he sees right through Nish now. And Nish is trying to get close to Ash and trying to get close to Vinny and doing a good job of that. But Kirat sees through it, and I think Nish knows this about Kirat. So they have that interesting dynamic between those two characters. Kirat does tell Ash and Vinny the real reason why Nish was in prison all this time, because of killing someone in a jealous rage, somebody that he thought Suki was having an affair with. The twist being that Suki was not involved with the man that Nish went to prison for murdering. She was involved with that man's wife, and this event may have been the cause of the way Suki is now this cold, suppressed character that she is today. Which, now that Suki and Eve have this thing going on, adds another layer to this story. And this isn't even all the dynamics, because there is then the character of Ravi. Ravi is also the son of Nish, but this has not come out yet. But they have this plan of getting money from the Panesars or Panesars. I can't say the name. And I've already talked about how last month it was revealed Ravi was having an affair with the wife of the man that he's pretending was his father, and that who is now kind of blackmailing Suki because she killed him, even though he really did. And as soon as Kira and Stacy start having problems, Ravi moves right in and starts goading in Kirat into an argument. And they have a fist fight at the pub, get into an actual fight, and then this is at the same time that Suki is coming back to town. Classic soap opera ending there on that episode where Suki's back in town. Ravi and Kirat are fighting outside the pub. She walks in on it. Just great stuff. The dynamics here are amazing. And now Suki's back at the end of October. I only watched up till the Halloween episodes. I haven't watched into November yet, but I'm looking forward to it greatly. It's the only soap opera that I rush to watch when I can, because it's far better than the rest of them right now. I talked about it when I started doing these rankings last year, how Coronation Street's writing was just above and beyond everybody else's because of their long-term storytelling. They had a great story, and they kept writing character-driven stories that came out of that story. And now EastEnders has the better writing than anybody else, in my opinion. And this story with the Panesars might be the best story on a soap opera I've watched in a very long time. I'll talk about this more when I get a chance to, if I ever get a chance to. But for my rankings this month, EastEnders, far and away, because of the dynamics in this family mostly. But there's other stuff I'm going to talk about here. This isn't the only good thing going on. But yeah, this family dynamics, it's classic. And, you have this... Because Suki was so unrootable for a long time. She's like a really cold woman. But I like the character development of why she's such a cold woman, because of the way she's had to suppress herself for so long because of her race and religion and background and her family and her marriage to Nish and the way Nish is, and, these beliefs within their religious backgrounds. But she gives into Eve and they sleep together, and now when she's back in town, she wants to be with Eve. She wants to do that, but she has to have a talk with her husband Nish, and Nish has this talk about how she's obligated to him as her husband now that he's back out of prison. He wants to prove himself to his kids that he is a good man, and I think Suki feels compelled to then break up with Eve officially, even though they weren't really a relationship, but to tell Eve to stay away. She doesn't like her at all. She can't be with her. I think this is Suki's way of protecting Eve because of the reason that Nish was in prison in the first place, because he killed someone in jealous rage because she thought Suki was with that person. So... yeah, I love this story. I love the dynamics of this family. I think it is so good to watch on a daily basis because of the dynamics, because the writing is so good. It's great. I love it. This story really only took place at the beginning of the month between Phil and the family, where Shirley told Phil all that Sam has done, and Phil kind of is over Sam and done with her. But she still owes Jonah money, and Jonas had his goons attack the pub and stuff, attack Peggy's basically, and Phil attacks Jonah, and Phil needs to go on the run because the detective has been trying to blackmail Phil into taking down Billy. Phil makes a phone call, and then Phil goes off, and we haven't seen him since. We don't know who Phil has called. There's a lot of speculation, but I look forward to seeing who it is and why it is. So that was another good story as well. There's also been Amy and Denzel, who've kind of been pressured at school to sleep together, and Denzel's been bragged about it that he could, but really they only kissed. Amy's only 13, Denzel's 14. But there's this moment where Jack learns that they might sleep together, and Jack rushes home and walks in on them kissing, and he throws Denzel against the wall for kissing his 13-year-old daughter. But Denzel's only 14, and Jack's this cop, and I don't know if there was supposed to be race dynamics because Denzel's black, and you know, he hasn't really liked Denzel at all being around Amy. But that also causes problems for his relationship with Denise, who's also black. You know, some of the story, I don't know where they're going, and I don't know if I like it. But other parts of it, it made for another good storyline to be going on. I mean, when the Panesar family's on, everything else in comparison is not as compelling. But I still found a lot of this interesting where Jack won't admit to, like, he won't tell he's sorry to Denzel or Howie, who is Denzel's father. But then Denzel sees Jack and Sam together because Jack goes out to the bar upset with his life. Because Amy went to the police where Jack works and told them what Jack did. So Jack's a little in trouble at work. But so he gets drunk with Sam, and Sam tries to kiss him, and Denzel takes a picture of this and kind of puts it out there for people. So that causes even more problems between Denise and Jack. And for some reason, Sam is trying to also say that Jack and Chelsea are getting close, Chelsea being Denise's daughter. Yeah, there's a lot going on here. This is the writing's not as strong in this story at all, but it does lead to Amy self-harming because of getting out at the school that she slept with Denzel, even though she didn't, and that breaks up her and Denzel. So the writing wasn't the strongest here, but it still has set up interesting stuff for me. Lastly, we got to talk about Lola, who has a brain tumor, it's cancerous brain tumor, so it seems terminal. You know, they've been making it obvious that Lola's probably going to die because of the way they've had her talking for the last 2 months. It's going to be a sad story. It's already hard to watch, honestly, because she's young and, you know, she's had all these conversations about getting with Jay and how they're going to grow old together, but obviously that's not going to happen because she has a brain tumor. But I still think the writing is strong there. The writing overall is strong. It is the Panesars, however, that are running the show and carrying the show. And frankly, the best thing in all of soap operas is the Panesars.